Open Network, thank you so much for joining us today. We have something so fun to talk about today. Every year at Life.Church, we do something that is by far the most fun thing that we do, and it is called At the Movies. And it is big and fun, and it's about movies, and it is just an excuse to throw a great party for our community and invite people to church. We have a saying here that is, we will do anything short of sin to reach people for Christ. And this really is a great example of that. So we are here at the Stillwater campus with Pastor Cody, and what's special about Pastor Cody and At the Movies is that this campus continually does the very best At the Movies that you can do. So we have come to the right place for a little advice on how to do At the Movies.
It's a lot of fun. We love it, and thanks for saying that. But I mean, really, we as a church,
you love it maybe too much.
Maybe it could be true.
You're so good at it.
It is just a place that our campus really feels like, man, this can make a huge difference. So they really go all in. And you're kind of right. It kind of has a reputation now that people looking on go, I want to be a part of that, you know. And of course, when they are, it takes it up another level.
So Pastor Cody is going to walk us through some of the really practical things that they do, some of the nuts and bolts that help them really do a successful At the Movies. So first, just so we're all on the same page, what At the Movies is a month-long message series that we do in the summer. We do it in July. You could do it. It works really well in the summer, so you could do it anytime that you wanted in the summer if you wanted to do it at your church. And for the message portion of it, Pastor Craig takes a movie, a popular movie, and he shows clips of it during service, and then he pulls out biblical truths from that. So it really makes that movie kind of start to mean something else for people. Then, meanwhile, at the campus level, the campus is doing the movie portion of it, and that's in the lobby. And I've seen campuses go one of two ways with their decorations. One is they might highlight a really popular movie, so there might be dinosaurs everywhere or a DeLorean somewhere, and they're highlighting popular movies. Or they make it a movie experience where maybe it's a 1940s glam theater. And so people feel like they've come into this amazing back in time retro theater. So either way though, you're amping up the movie feel of the way your lobby is. We don't generally put anything in the auditorium. You could if you wanted to, but we generally keep it all in the lobbies. And then if you really want to, we sometimes do a variation in the kids area. So we'll have a theme, like let's say it's dinosaurs in the adult part, and then maybe it's baby dinosaurs in the kids area. You know, whatever you wanted to do to make it a little bit different or fun or interactive for the kids. So that's what At the Movies is. It's a movie-based message series that also has crazy decorations that are interactive out in the lobby. Tell us what the point of it though. Why do we do it?
Well, I love it because it is a great way for us to invite people in the church, and when they come in, it starts to provide a comfortable experience. Then they're going to hear the confrontation of the gospel. They're going to get a chance to kind of let their guard down and be wowed and go, this is church? Wait a second, I didn't know you could do this in a church.
They're running all around and they're touching stuff and they're taking pictures.
Going, is this legal in a church? You know, I mean, can you do this? And it's kind of like, absolutely. And then you come in, you're watching kind of a movie, you're be able to experience something that's bigger than just, you know, a message, but then also that's something you've probably been a part of. You maybe have seen the whole movie. You definitely usually know kind of the general theme of it. And it connects with your heart in a different way. It's an illustration, just like Jesus used story after story after story. It's a parable. Exactly. And so we know it works. You spend your money on them. We do, you know, on our movies. We know it works for you to spend money on. And so what a great way to get to help communicate the gospel as well.
Okay, so I want to do this in my church. I'm excited. We're going to do it in July, but I don't even know where to start. What's kind of a rough timeline leading up to At the Movies?
So if you're preparing the movies, I would say, and the talks that go there, I would say you need to start screening some movies, maybe 3, even 4, maybe 5 months out, to start to say, what are some good movies that we could use that I could teach from, and that maybe resonate with my heart, that have taught me a lesson. So I would say 4, 5, 6 even months out on what those movies are. And then if you're doing a campus build, was what we call ours, we're starting, 4 months out with what the theme already is. We typically choose a movie here in Stillwater, and our goal is to really move you from, hey, you're in Stillwater, to all of a sudden you're in this movie.
You're in an experience.
You are walking around as a little person that's been shrunk, down to a big movie, or you're a car, whatever. You're literally in those movies. So we try to think from the street all the way into the auditorium.
Okay.
We're one of the campuses that does do stuff in the auditorium.
I remember you had Mr. Spell,
Yeah.
I think, on your stage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And have done, we had a car, we had kind of a victory lane for a movie we did. And so we do try to think of how can we bring you fully encompassed into that. Now that obviously takes massive work and tons of volunteers and hours. And that's part of why we start so early.
So that initial planning meeting is maybe 4 months out, and that's a smaller group, I bet.
Right.
It's you and your team, maybe a key leader who did it last year, something like that. And is that more brainstorming about what the theme might be?
That is typically, we've decided on a theme. So we've talked some about a theme beforehand. This is what the theme is. Let's really start
Marching
to
orders
flesh
now.
out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we'll draw up our lobby and go, what could go here and why there? Let's switch those around.
Okay.
And in that conversation, we're also saying, oh, we know a great guy who's a good welder. He can help take this part because a lot of metal's going to be involved. This guy's a carpenter. Let's see if he can help us. And so we're going through kind of who we know that are people in our, in our congregation who go to church with us, who have a skill set, and we're already kind of trying to peg them. And more often than not, when we've already pegged them, we call them and say, hey, Jordan, would you help us with this?
You don't want my skills.
Well, you never know. Maybe there is. You never know. They feel excited about that because we've already thought about them. We think they bring something to the table, and more often than not, they jump in and really want to take a key part of that. So we're breaking it down. We're making some drawings, and they're very rudimentary. We're not talking anything that's CAD, anything like that. And then we're beginning that process of having some conversations. And typically, we bring a real rough draft to those folks, and then we kind of, how can we do this and do it for cheap? And do it or involve other people, or free is even better. Involve other people, and then here's our timeline we're looking at. And so we'll meet with some of those builders. We have a builders meeting and get them together. And it's really neat what happens because as we really bring a rough draft, they begin to put skin and even bones to it, which increases their ownership.
Yeah, and letting them be creative in it and build up the church in that way that's unique to them. If I'm a carpenter, I can't on most days walk up to the church and help with anything, But with At the Movies, I can put my skills to work. Okay, so I want to come back to volunteers in a second, but on timeline, so we have our theme, maybe the bigger pieces are being built off-site, maybe they're being built. Then when do you have build week? Because we do it before the series actually starts, right?
That's right. So we will typically do 2 build nights on our campus, in our lobby, the 3 weeks before our what we call preview weekend. So you'll have a Tuesday, build night, and then we begin build week, what would be 2 weeks before At the Movies. So if At the Movies is going to be, the first weekend in July, we're actually beginning build week 2 weekends before.
3rd week of June.
Right, 3rd week of June.
So that in the 4th week of June, the week before At the Movies actually starts, everyone comes in and what do they see?
They're going, oh my gosh, you did this? You did what is
this?
Yeah. And it's still a normal, it may be whatever series on marriage or on finances or just, a series on miracles, I don't know. But they're watching a normal message, but they're surrounded by this movie. And it helps us to communicate from the stage and say, hey, you've seen it, you've touched it, you've felt it. Now invite people like crazy. At the Movie starts next week. It's going to be great. And now people are going, you've got to come see what they did in the lobby. Oh my gosh, they built a 60-foot, ship in our lobby. You'll never believe. And
we did that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we start so early. And that was a learned lesson because we would see week 2 of At the Movies much higher in attendance.
I was just going to say that we didn't always do the preview week. We used to have our build week just prior to launching the message series, and so the first week that the message started for At the Movies is when the build would be completed. So people would walk in, see the lobby and the message in the same week. And then we realized exactly that so many more people were coming week 2, and the reason was because they were blown away week 1 and they brought people back. And just word of mouth in the community and social media, people were kind of coming out of the woodwork to see what it was that we were doing. doing. So we realized if we bump that up to the week prior, then people are potentially going to be engaged all 4 weeks. And what we've found with that is that if people come to church for 4 weeks, they are likely to come back.
That's exactly right.
And that is the whole goal. That's that anything short of sin element. We're not trying to manipulate people, but if we can make church a habit for people,
Yes.
they're going to come back and give their lives to Christ.
Absolutely.
That's the result.
Absolutely. And walk more closely with Christ
Yes.
because of a movie or because of a
Yeah.
movie set. And you kind of go, okay, Lord, yeah, you really are using all things for your glory.
And that's
you know?
that's what I love about it too, because we're taking something that was just made by the world, made by creative people
Yep.
in the world,
Right.
but that's pop culture and kind of relevant to people who aren't Christians too. And then we're making it relevant to Christ.
Absolutely.
You know, just appropriating that and saying,
Absolutely.
look at Jesus instead.
Yep.
Yes,
That's right.
I love
That's
it.
right.
Okay, so going back to volunteers, you mentioned maybe a carpenter or a welder comes in. So here at Life.Church, we do have a small budget allocated to do at the movies because it's something that is important to us to
Right.
do every year. But we try our darndest to do as much as we can for free, though.
Yep.
So there's two components to that. One is looking in our community and among our attenders for goods that they can donate. Maybe it's paint, maybe it's lumber. If we're doing a specific theme and someone owns a DeLorean, we want to know that so that they'll
Absolutely.
offer to come park it in our driveway
right.
and welcome people to church.
Yep.
So there's goods and assets, and then there's also those skilled volunteers and people who just want to volunteer their time and do normal things. You know, maybe
Right.
they're not a carpenter or a welder, but there is a huge volunteer army that comes in during build weeks.
Yes.
So just tell me, you mentioned a little bit already, like if you know someone, you're going to call them and ask them to throw in their skills and help us. But do you also talk about it from stage?
We do.
Yeah.
We do two things that really are key for us involving other people. One, we have kind of what we call a reveal night.
Fun.
And we did that last year on social media, which was cool because we kind of, what's it going to be? What's the theme going to be? We talk about it.
So
a
well
lot.
ahead of time, you're
Yep.
revealing the theme.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll reveal the theme to our folks. And again, we build that night up. We have done it multiple ways. Again, we've done one here at the campus where we bring them in, we have popcorn and candy, and we, at the movies, might show some clips and pictures from
Yeah.
things that have happened. And then we talk about what's our theme going to be this year, reveal it, and then right then, we go, okay, here's what it is. Here's our rough draft, and we'll show kind of a picture of the lobby on the screen behind us.
Awesome, yeah.
And then say, hey, out in our lobby right now, we've got different folks. Corbin's over there. He's leading this part. Zach is leading this part. Kelsey's leading that part. If you know them or you think you've got an idea already on how that could come to fruition, then go see them. And then rotate around or stick where you want to. And we're in the lobby ready for folks to come out. And we're making lists. Okay, so you've got a connection to garden hoses. Okay,
Yeah.
you know somebody who has street signs.
I love
Great.
it.
And so then it's already building ownership in people. And we're getting great ideas because I didn't think about it doing it that way, you know. So so we get both assets and people in that conversation. And really, when it comes to assets, part of why we have a budget is because we don't want local businesses to always see us as who's coming for the next handout.
Yes,
who's
we just
coming-
asked you for things.
Right, and-
right.
and-
If it happens organically and out of generosity, then great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we also don't want to be a drain on our community.
Right.
Okay.
For example, we had a guy who's been a part of our builds for the past probably 4 or 5 years, and just last week called us and said, "Hey, I'm a project manager on these apartments. Every door was cut to the wrong specifications. We can't use them. I have to throw them
What?
away. I can't send them back. Would you want them?"
What movie is door themed? I'm trying to think how we can use these doors.
Right. And so again, we're like, yes, 84 doors that we now have, in a little storage building. And again, we're kind of going, okay, how could we use these?
Yep.
Is there a movie that works? And maybe we, if we don't use all of them and we give them to Habitat for Humanity.
Well, we've been
or something,
using
but-
4 doors a year
Yeah,
for 20
exactly.
years.
Yeah, right. So that's one way we
Yep.
get those assets, and then secondly, those volunteers who've now been made aware of what the actual theme is going to be. They begin the process, and it's so crazy how they go. I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, and when we ask for carpenters, or we may call the welders, or we may see people who are seamstress, they also tend to know other people in that same field.
Yep.
And so we've got many carpenters who they've got 3 or 4 guys who just show up and they'll start working on that at the movies. And now years later, they come to church regularly, and they've given their lives to Christ because one of their carpenter friends said, hey, I'm doing this crazy thing. And it's so crazy that those folks just kind of show up and go, I got to see this.
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah. And I mean, literally, the volunteers are coming to Christ because they're involved with it. So,
and that has been really an unexpected blessing from God, because we did At the Movies in the first place because we wanted something exciting that people could come to a church if they normally wouldn't come to church. But that volunteer component, we have heard so many stories about someone coming in just because someone asked them to help, a coworker maybe, and then giving their lives to Christ. And that has been such an unexpected bonus, because we had no idea that the build week and volunteer portion would also be leading people to Christ.
Yeah, it's one of those ways, again, God's ways are higher than our ways,
Yes.
you know? We're thinking you're here to paint, and the reality is you're connecting with somebody next to you that now becomes a relationship that's really key to your walk with Christ. And so that build week is a ton of fun. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours.
So much work. I've been there till like 2 in the morning, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And that's what we'll do. We make a list of, okay, what do we need to get done? And it's new punch lists every single day. And when people come in, the volunteers, we tell everybody about it. Come hang out with us. On the weekend, we'll tell them it's happening here. We'll remind them through social media channels, every channel that we can get our message out on, and then every individual personal one. And when they show up, we've got a list of projects. We're painting this today. We're building this today. And so what's your experience? And we ask them when they show up. And if you don't have any, great. We're wrapping these boxes with paper.
Yeah.
Anybody can do this.
Yeah. Or sometimes I've been like, well, we're going to make 200 puffy clouds out of this cotton.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Exactly, So we've got those projects. When they check in, we get a name tag on them so everybody else knows who they are. And then we take them to that project, and those leaders, who again are some of the folks we've asked, months in advance, are there helping them, going, okay, you're here, yeah, come on in, we need this cut, let's do this over here, lay this stuff here, here's a project that I'd like to give you. And then night after night, that list gets smaller and smaller and more,
Campuses now, I've even heard, are ending ahead of schedule.
Yeah, we're not one of those. We're not one of those.
Because you're always doing something extra.
That's exactly right.
Just something extra.
It's true. And that is part of what I feel like we do is, and our people now are doing it. They're going, okay, this looks good, but what if we could do, because so often it's like building a house or anything.
Yeah.
You kind of get it finished and you go, yeah, but if the color was a little different here, that would be
Could
neat.
we repaint this room?
Yeah, exactly. Now that we're in it and see it, so we try to get most of everything done by Wednesday, knowing that there's going to be detailed stuff that happens throughout the week that we really need to tweak and shift and really take it up a notch. And that's also why we love the preview weekend.
Yes.
Because we get it out there, and then we see how people interact with it, and we go, oh, that didn't work.
Just soft opening.
Right, it really is. That's exactly what it is for us. And so let's build this, extra, or let's pull that off too.
When talking about maybe a certain part didn't work, we really make an effort to make elements, not everything, but elements in the lobby interactive.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I would really, challenge you to think about. What is either maybe a photo op we could build, or something that moves that kids can get on, and ride or move. What's something interactive that we can do? People are going to love that. Okay, so I heard this from Pastor Tommy. One communication thing in At the Movies to always be thinking about is 2 things. You have all of these new people here for At the Movies. Your communication goals during At the Movies are, we love you and want you here.
That's right.
We're so glad you're here, and come back next week.
That's exactly right.
We love you. You're home here. Come back next week. So you've done the hard work of doing the build for At the Movies, and then it's simple during At the Movies.
That's right.
You are just asking people to come back.
Right, because if we have 4 amazing weeks, but you don't come back, then we put on a great show, but didn't connect you.
Yeah.
And that is not what we do all that for, And so you're exactly right. We're welcome. We're glad you're here. We hope you feel like we were ready for you, And
we did all of this for you.
Yeah, and get back in here, man. So we really are. We're connecting them with all that we can in a this could be your home. This could be a place where you go a little deeper. We're talking about ways that you can take a next step. And we as a team, and really even as our volunteers and our leaders are constantly thinking, next week, how can we get you back? What can we do to go above and beyond? And so that is really, really, really a key for us, And I think if you're out there and you've never done never done At the Movies, I would just encourage you to do something.
Yeah.
You may be sitting there going, okay, wait, 4 months, how many volunteers?
Yeah, that's crazy talk. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
What I would just tell you is we did something in 2007, and every year we've gained momentum, and every year we've really gotten better at it. And you know, this last year from 2007 are light years apart. I mean, dynamically different, but it takes one start just to get rolling on it.
And the heart is the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay,
Absolutely.
so if I'm in the open network and my church is maybe holding back a little bit, my leadership doesn't totally understand at the movies and why we would bring a secular movie into the walls of the church, you know, we get that. But I'm a pastor that really has a vision for doing it. How would you counsel them to lead up and really sell the idea of doing at the movies?
You know, I think that's a great question. I'm sure that many of you may be in that spot. I think that we see Jesus time and time again use things in the midst of his context to really move his message forward. And so he uses the water at the well with the woman who was there. I mean, that's a tangible thing. She was coming to get. He used it as a way to illustrate who he was. Yeah. He uses the coin. They go, hey, what about taxes? And he goes, hey, give me, who's got a coin?
Yeah, who has one right here?
Right, and so I'm going to use something that's in your hand that you're very common, and you know who's on this coin. Who's on the coin? Well, Caesar, you know.
And the loaves and the fishes.
Right.
Who's got a lunch here?
Absolutely. So he uses these things that are of this world time and time again to illustrate, you know, the truth of his gospel. And so I don't know if there's some way that, you know, you could kind of say, is this that much different, you know, than that? And again, we talked about it earlier. He uses parables, story, time and time again. And what are movies? Well, they're good stories that are visually stimulating and that connect with our hearts ultimately and our minds. So much so that we're willing to take the money we've worked to earn and just say, tell me a good story. Tell me a good story, you know? And so if that's the same avenue that Jesus himself used, that's the way that stories are being told, one of the ways, in our context and in our world, and man, let's try to use these things that are very present and being talked about to help share the message of hope and life. So again, I think that doing that in a way that's not arrogant, that's not coming in and saying, I've got the idea that, Life.Church does this is a no-brainer. Well, it may not be for your context, but it may be, and just going, hey, you know what? Ultimately, how do we navigate this? That Jesus used these things. So what are we doing to use this? And it may be that you spark a great conversation to say, maybe not the movies for us, but there is something in the world that we could utilize in a way that Jesus did, and maybe you get to do that at the movies too. We think it's a powerful tool for reaching people who don't know Christ. And the end of that core value says, to reach people no one's reaching, you got to do some things that no one is doing. And when we started doing it at the movies, and especially even the way we do our lobbies, people are just blown away that a church would go to this length to reach people for Christ. And not only are they blown away by that and inspired, and that pushes into their lives every day, but they're inspired to invite, because if you're willing to go to those lengths, surely I can invite somebody to church. Then surely I can get a little uncomfortable with my coworker and say, hey, why don't you try this church? You know.
Well, and it gives your attenders a great reason to invite someone, because they can say, there is a freaking tornado in the lobby of my church. You have got to come see it.
And many times I help create the tornado. Come see what I've been doing. Well, that's real common across the board. I mean, anywhere from a baseball game your kids are playing, to a graduation, to an art exhibit. Come see what I've been doing. And I'm personally invested, which is why it's really key to get volunteers involved as well.
Love it. Well, Pastor Cody, thank you so much for walking us through At the Movies. We hope that you guys will try to do At the Movies at your church, and it might look different in your church, so feel free to take what we've said and make it your own. You know, add on your own ideas, make it work for your community, for your building, for your church, for your leadership and your mission. Just take that idea, though, of doing something unusual, something just short of sin, and using it and converting it so that it points people towards Christ.